Hey plant people, thank you so much for stopping by. Today we are just going to be chilling and talking about my favorites for the month of August. This month has been a continuation of like the spring, summer type vibe. And although it does feel like a little bit like we're moving into kind of like the fall season, the plants don't know any better. They're still growing like crazy. There are a few that we're going to be talking about that have really stood out to me this month. And going back sometimes, like as I'm editing these videos, I'm like, have I talked about this plant in like every other favorites video that I've done? And I honestly, like, I feel like I have like short-term memory loss or something. I literally cannot remember even what plants I talked about in my previous favorites video. So if some of these are repetitive or I've already talked about some of these, just forgive me for that. Most of the time when I do that, it's normally because they've like grown and done something since like the last time that I talked about them, or something in like recently that they've done that's pretty cool. So just bear with me. Number one, I know for 100% fact that I've talked about this plant before. This is gonna be my Alocasia Black Velvet, and this is one that I purchased from Home Depot probably over 2 years ago at this point. And when I got it at Home Depot, its leaves were literally like the size of my fist. They were like super tiny, and it was not doing well because they had it outside during the season when like it's turning from like summer to fall, and it was getting kind of cold out there. And alocasias do not like being cold whatsoever. So it was definitely not looking its best. And just like in the last maybe like a year, I would say, I know that I repotted it and I put it in a bigger planter and I gave it better soil and I've been fertilizing regularly, and it's just been growing like crazy. And I had been very surprised at how large the leaves had been getting. And then it came out with this super massive black leaf. This is not the big one. This is the previous ones, which for me, I don't know. I just feel like this is really big for an Alocasia Black Velvet. Like anytime that I see them anywhere, they're not nearly this large. So I was like very proud of her for doing so well. If you can kind of see the size comparison with my hand, like look at how wide this one is. That's nuts. And there's another big one. So like every single leaf that she's been putting out have just been totally huge. And then she put out this thing. What the heck? Like I'm not complaining, but look. Look at that size difference. That's crazy. Like head comparison. That is nuts. And of course, like they're super pretty on the back too. You can see that really red coloration on the back. But she's getting a fair amount of light. She's sitting in my bathroom, which is is it an east facing window? I feel like I always get these two confused. I don't know. It's not a south facing window, I'll tell you that much. She's sitting up there and she's not getting like, I feel like it's not like a ton of light because this window is kind of like in between my house and my neighbor's house. So it gets constant light throughout the day, but it's not like super intense light. Although it is warmer in there, especially during the summer. So I do feel like that has definitely been contributing to her growth. But that is just like, I could not talk about this because this leaf is so giant. And it's so beautiful. Look at that texture. That's gorgeous. She is just showing out with this. Look, that is crazy. That leaf comparison to like her previous leaves. That's nuts. And she's putting out, I think this is yet another leaf. Like she literally just put this one out. So I'm curious to see like how large this is going to be, if it's going to be this big again or if it's going to kind of go down in sizing. I can't imagine, like it would just be crazy to me that she had put out another leaf that's this large, like this soon after putting out this leaf. But I mean, it's not impossible, I guess. Plants do surprise you sometimes. All right, another one that I almost did not even add to this video because I had not really like checked on it very closely in a while is my Anthurium vitrifolium, and this is the variegated version. And I have this guy sitting in this little like window shelf, and while like obviously like I can visually see it every single day, you know, sometimes you just don't get like a super detailed up close look of your plants. Like you just kind of pass by and are like, okay, it looks like it's doing okay. But it had put out this new leaf. Like all of its previous leaves have really good variegation on them. We have this one. This is another one that I know that I've talked about a lot, but I mean, come on, like, how could I not talk about this a lot? That is just like, it's a given. It's a given. And I have to talk about this to somebody, okay? So y'all are just gonna have to be that somebody. But it put out this leaf over here. I'm gonna give you a little peeky peek of. But it put out this leaf that looked like it was all variegated. And the variegation on this one is like very Aurea variegation. So it looked like it just put out this totally yellow leaf. When their leaves come out, they're so funny looking. They're like not even like super elongated. They're just like kind of tiny and narrow. And it was just like this little dinky yellow leaf. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I don't even know if that's really gonna like survive because it looked like it was totally variegated. And some plants that put out totally variegated leaves, like alocasia, philodendron, whatever. Like if you get an all white leaf, or like a monstera, an all white leaf on one of those, it's just gonna brown off in no time. Like you're not even gonna be able to like really appreciate it at all. But some plants that I've noticed this, some plants that have the more like Aurea type variegation, I guess there must be maybe like a little more chlorophyll or something in that. I don't know exactly how that works. But I've noticed the ones that kind of have like the Aurea yellowy type variegation tend to last a little bit longer. So I'm hoping that that will be the case for this leaf. And it has hardened off quite a bit, although it is not totally hardened off. It is still a little bit soft. But look at how much bigger this is. I know, like, okay, look, granted, this is not like a big mature anthurium, okay? Like this is not like that big of a leaf. But in comparison to its other leaves, it is quite large, okay? It's a quite large leaf. And it does have just like a teensy tiny bit of green kind of towards the base here. I don't even know if you'll be able to see it on camera. But I feel like this is the first one that's kind of getting that shape where all these previous leaves are just kind of like one like narrow leaf. But this one I feel like is the first one where it's like starting more narrow and it's getting much wider towards the bottom. So that was very exciting to see that this one has like sized up so much more than its previous leaves. So that was just like such a nice little surprise to catch today. And of course I was doing my favorites video, so I was like, I'm gonna have to talk about this now because how could I not? So this is my Hoya. Okay, listen, like if I don't pronounce this correctly, don't come at me Hoya people, but Verdicillata, Quang Nagai. As always, names will be on the screen for your viewing pleasure. And this is one that I got because I really liked the little marginal variegation we have going on here. I feel like a lot of the Hoya that I have are more like splashy. I feel like that's my tendency to go towards these like dark, veiny, splashy Hoya. So I really do not have that many that have like this kind of brighter variegation on it. And I like this one because, so the variegation, it has this like yellowy, creamy variegation on the edges and it's dark green on the middle. But there's kind of like this layered, like that middle portion that's darker is kind of layered with different colors of green. So it has like the really dark green, but then there's like a lighter green that's in there too. And I am obviously going to show you, but you may not be able to see it, but maybe you can. So you can see how there's like these layers of the green in the middle. And I thought that was so pretty. This one you can really see it on more so. I feel like maybe not. Maybe I'm going to... I'm gonna go back and watch this footage and be like, what are you talking about? I literally cannot see anything. That's what I do all the time. Because I always say, as you can see, but it's like clearly sometimes you just cannot see anything. But these leaves are so pretty and she's been growing finally. I've had her for a while, but I feel like I have not been giving them enough light, even though I did do that like Hoya refresh for the shelves over there. And I got some more lights to go on the top of the shelves, but I still feel like it was not enough light. So I went back and I bought some of the, I can't remember, I feel like it's the Barrina lights. The Barrina grow lights. They love those, love them. And then I took those smaller lights that I had in those top two shelves and put them in the Acrobar IKEA little like small greenhouse cabinets. So all of the Hoyas are like thrilled right now because they're getting so much light over there. But it started putting out these new leaves at the top And I like how long they are. But it is kind of funny because all of these leaves are like very round. And then it's got these little long leaves coming out of the top. It looks like two different Hoyas right here for like these last two leaves. That's so funny. But they're so pretty. And that variegation at the top is kind of like, again, more like Aurea green toned. I do feel like it'll likely harden off to this more like yellowy, white, green kind of color over here. White cream. Creamy white, not white green. But yeah, these are her first two leaves, and she's got this little long tendril, so that is really fun. Okay, next we're just going to continue the Hoya choices right now. This is the Patchawalii Icensis Splash, and when I got it, it was these two leaves, and this Hoya is absolutely gorgeous. Like, this is probably my favorite splashy Hoya because I really like this. Like, it has a black border around the edges too, which I think any Hoya that has this black border around the edges, I absolutely love. I just think it's so interesting to see that because I feel like there's like not many plants that have that really dark black border to them. It's just something that I don't see all the time, or like to my knowledge that I personally do not see all the time. So when I see it in Hoyas, I just think it's really interesting and like a little bit different. But obviously the splash, out of this world, totally gorgeous. It's this very like minty silver splashing on those dark leaves. But it put out these two leaves. So it finally gave me some two leaves, and I was kind of worried about like what the splash percentage is that we'd be working with here because, like I said, I realized that I had not been giving them enough light, but it has had no issues. It even has this one right here that has like, is like totally silver here in the, like the base of the leaf. So I'm really happy to see that this splash has been pretty consistent into this next set of leaves, which is quite a relief. Obviously, sometime in the future, I would love to propagate this guy and get some more of those cuttings put back into the pot to have some extra vines going on. But yeah, this one's totally gorge and doing great. I really wanted to talk about my Alocasia Polly in this video because, or I'm sorry, my Alocasia Amazonica, like, I feel like those are the same thing. But I really wanted to talk about that one in this video because it was putting out another enormous leaf. So that's the one that I've had. I feel like I've had that before I even had my black velvet. And it just did nothing forever. And then I repotted it with my Alocasia Syrian, whatever, which is also doing fantastically well now. And I don't know what happened. Maybe they just like gave each other some moral support because they both just started blowing up. So I had to separate them because their roots were getting so crazy. And when I repotted the Alocasia Amazonica, it had given me one leaf that seemed very large in comparison to its other single leaf that I had on there for literally like a year without it doing anything. And then it just started busting out these enormous leaves. So it has another really big leaf that's coming out, but it's still kind of like curled up. You can't see what's going on with it. So we're not going to be talking about that one today. However, we are going to be talking about my variegated Alocasia Amazonica. I know for sure that I talked about, or maybe I posted an Instagram reel or a TikTok or something about the its previous variegated leaf that it put out because it was so beautiful. I got this plant from the Green Escape on Etsy, and they had them for just like significantly cheaper than you would find them anywhere else because it was like grower's choice and they're very small, and tiny baby alocasias are just kind of finicky. So it's kind of like a little bit of a risk when you get a variegated one like that from somewhere like the Green Escape that does these starter plugs. So I honestly was like kind of worried going into it, just like as how this was going to turn out and if it was even going to make it and if it was going to actually have any significant amount of pink variegation on it. And it started putting out leaves that at the time I thought were really great with the pink variegation. Like it had this leaf, for example, that came out that actually has a good bit of pink, like right here in the corner. So that was kind of surprising. And then its previous leaf that it put out to the one that I'm about to show you had a good amount of pink on it as well. But it did just put out a leaf that looks like it doesn't have any variegation on it. So I don't really know about that. However, its previous leaf to like this little rolled up non-variegated one that it just stuck out is this. And I was like so flabbergasted when I saw this, because this is just like not something that I was expecting out of this plant. I was expecting more like when you buy a starter plug that's grower's choice that comes in with like almost no variegation. Like this was the variegation that it came with. It was like almost nothing. And then I got that and I was like very pleased with this because it had that pink corner, and that was kind of like the impression that I have, like that's the like most variegation I'd probably get off of that plant. But then what the heck? Like I was just so totally shocked with this. Like that is just a crazy amount of variegation. This is like something that you see on those people from Instagram that have all those like gorgeous variegated alocasias. Like I never thought that I would own an alocasia that looked like that. So again, like that was the last leaf, and then now we have this over here that has literally no variegation on it. So we'll see. Hopefully it will decide to go back to these in its upcoming leaves. I do definitely need to keep up on the watering a little bit more on this one, so that's probably my fault. Okay, the next one that we're going to talk about is a fun one. It is a Caudex plant, which is very exciting. I had been kind of thinking recently just how I really like the Caudex plants because a lot of times they have a period of dormancy, and it's kind of like you get so excited to see them growing again that when they finally start growing, it is just like, it's so much fun to see, and just to see them sprouting all of this foliage when they haven't done anything for so long. And it kind of like makes you appreciate their growth a little bit more, because it's not something that you have all the time. You know, it's like kind of like a special event when they start sprouting. But I had this one that I'm going to show you, and I got it probably, actually I think I got it a year ago, because it was when I got my boyfriend's birthday present last year, and he just had a birthday. So it's been like right at a year, and it did nothing for probably 10.5 months. And so I stuck it in the window upstairs in my boyfriend's office, and it's one of those like garage rooms. So it's like over the garage, like upstairs over where your garage is. So it's like, you know, those rooms normally get pretty hot and cool, like in the summer and the winter, whatever. So I had it in the window up there, and it was obviously pretty hot, and I kind of forgot about it. So I forgot about it for a while because it wasn't doing anything. Like it was just a little like lump that was sitting in the window. Like obviously I'm not thinking about checking on that every day. And then I went up there because I was trying to figure out what to do with some of those plants. This was when I was kind of like cleaning out some of the plants that I didn't want anymore. And I noticed it had started growing. So I had this like, it's so funny because it's like this little lump, and when it starts growing, it puts out these long little like tendrils, and then it's almost like a Hoya, and then it'll put little leaves out along those tendrils that look like nothing. They're like these little tiny dots, and then eventually they'll start growing into these leaves. So it had little tendrils, and some of the leaves were sprouting. So I brought it back downstairs and I put it on a trellis. And this is what it looks like. How cute is this? Like, look at those leaves. Is that not like the most precious? And I just love this like look. Like I don't know, you can't like, it's not on a solid background, so you can't really 100% see it. But I love this look of like the little terracotta and its trellis, and the way that it kind of wraps around, and like its cute little heart-shaped, delicate little leaves. And if you can see on this little vine that's coming up, those little dots, those are the leaves. So they come out just as like almost nothing. You can barely see them. This one has a, let's see if I can get that. You see a little baby leaf on there? And then eventually, as it goes, it'll turn into leaves like that. And I just think these are so cute. They're very like, I don't know, this gives me very much like fairy tale vibes, if that makes sense. Like secret garden, fairy tale, magical vibes. Like it's just so precious. Like you would see this in a fairy garden or something. And it grows from, this is its Caudex. Oh, let me flip around here. Oh, and this is the elephant's foot. And it does have a longer name that I definitely cannot pronounce, but I will put on the screen. And this is what she looks like right now. They do get super duper big. So this is the caudex right here. They do get very large, but it takes them a long time. So this is like a plant that you could keep for your entire life and kind of just like watch this caudex grow over the years, which is what I'm planning to do. And I just think that's like such a nice thing to be able to experience. And now, like with these videos on YouTube, I can literally go back and look at this video and be like, look at how tiny this plant was when I'm like 90 years old, because I plan to live that long at least. And then hopefully by that point, it will literally be an elephant's foot and it'll be huge. But they're called elephant's foot because when they get really big, they get all those like cracks and they look like wrinkly and like this big lump, and it looks like a big elephant's foot on the ground, which is why they're called that. But yeah, highly recommend. This one's been super easygoing. Actually surprisingly thirsty for something that is a caudex type, like more succulent-y type deal. But I love her. All right, y'all, this one is an anthurium, and it is a no ID named Matthew crossed with a Bessier AFF that has the flat sinus. And this is one that I've had for a little while. I really love this because it's very delicate looking. Like it has a lighter green, kind of like pinkish tint to the leaves. I don't know if I can explain it, but the veining, especially the veining on the back of the leaves. Ooh, I'm trying not to show you that new one yet because that's a surprise. I don't know if this will pick up on camera, but the veining is very pink. You can see it in the stem for sure, how pink those stems are and the veining is. But the leaves are just so pretty. They're very delicate and elongated and just very elegant looking to me. But it put out a new leaf, and when they come out, it is so pink. This is actually one of the ones that I have that's slower to harden off, but I almost don't mind it on this one because I get to see that pink of the leaf for a little bit longer before it hardens off to this kind of like greenish color. But it is so gorgeous, and this one's been out for maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks and just like been really, really slowly hardening off. But when they very first come out, they're such a beautiful bright pink color. I really wish that I had remembered to get a video of that when it had been coming out so you could see it when it first comes out with that really super pinky pink going on. But even now you can see it's still got a lot of the pink in the leaf. How beautiful. And her veining, wow, wowzers, beautiful. Another one that I just want to mention to document in case anything goes south with this plant is my Alocasia cucullata, and this is the variegated version. I have had lots of ups and downs with this guy. So when I got it, it was from Etsy, and when I got it, everything had rotted off of the plant, and it was just like a bad experience, but the seller did do what they could to kind of like remedy the situation. But it was terrible. It was literally just the corm when I got it because all the leaves were yellowed off and all of the roots were rotten off. And I did not think that it was going to survive, but I put it in a pot and it actually came back and it was growing fairly well. And then I repotted it and I potted it up in that soil mix that I always talk about that was like terrible. Like the soil itself, there was something wrong with it because it was like the water when it came through was like, it looked like oil. It was like so thick and black. And I didn't realize it until it was too late. So one thing that you want to look out for when you repot Alocasia, maybe if you've not experienced this for yourself, is if like right after you repot it, you know there's something wrong if all the leaves are wilted over and kind of like curled in. Like it is super upset about something. And I had this one and I lost, there was this one, there was one that I ended up losing because it totally rotted the entire corm. And then I have one that I'm still regrowing. And this one again had died, eventually died all the way back to just that corm again. And I put it in fresh potting mix and put it in my bathroom window and it started growing. And then I brought it back out here to my living room and she's finally taken back off again. And she's given me really good variegation this time around. Like the previous couple of times, I feel like her variegation was not nearly this good. Like that leaf that just came out, that variegation is crazy. Like that's almost like a totally variegated leaf. And not only that, but its little pup that's over here in the corner. I don't know how much of that you can see. But its variegation is absolutely phenomenal also. So we have this little pup that has great variegation, and she has great variegation now. So I'm super pleased with her just for being so resilient and coming back so many times and never giving up. She's the hardest little trier that I have. All right, y'all, I have got one more that I'm going to talk about, and it is my Syndapsis Jade Aurea. And recently in one of my plant chores videos, I potted her up on this moss pole, and at that point she was just these leaves, which still look gorge. Like, oh my gosh, this is going to tip over me trying to show you. Just ignore those top 2 leaves, like these bottom 4 leaves. That's what she had originally. So the variegation is absolutely fantastic on her. Totally gorgeous. And then she put out these top 2 leaves, and look at how much bigger they're getting. I don't know what it was, but I just was not expecting Syndapsis leaves to size up this much, especially in such a short time. She is like so happy to be on this moss pole. Like, all she wanted out of life was to be on a moss pole, and now that she has got no other hopes or wishes or wants or needs, and she's just happy as a clam and growing her very best. And it is so much fun to watch her put out all these. She's about to put out another leaf up here too, and she literally just put out this leaf, and this one's still hardening off. Another thing that I was surprised is like the Syndapsis leaves do size up quite a bit when they harden off. Like, I was just expecting, I've never had one on a pole before. I was just expecting them to kind of, when they come out, like not to expand quite as much as they have. But this one is just so big and beautiful. Like, that is so much fun to me, just like how much larger the leaves are. That is just so cool to me. And this variegation, like this Aurea variegation, combined with this growth pattern, I think that just looks so good. Like, she looks so good on this moss pole. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed seeing some of these updates and seeing what has been really catching my eye this month. If you like this video and you want to see more content like this from me, please like, please subscribe. It means so much to me, and it does so much for my channel. Appreciate y'all so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.